Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. I hope everyone is still aware of the terrible things that the studios are doing, who are struck, that are not coming to the table. Someone did the math, and it is less than 0.18% of any given studio's
Bonus.
like, when I don't want to say revenue, I think it is profits. Actually, it would be
Profits or
what they're asking for is less than 0.18%. I think it's like 0.104 or something like that.
It is very reasonable. It's the idea.
Very reasonable request. So the fact that they are not doing it shows that they only really care about control and not the art of this, or because they are losing shareholders money as well. I think it's Zaslav that posted like they're losing 200 to 500 million this quarter or something like that, and and someone pointed out that's only if the strike ended at the end of September. But since they are not even negotiating with any of the striking unions, then obviously they're going to lose more than that. And they are incentivized to do that because if they have free money, which is what Zaslav was talking about, they had like 1.2 billion or something like that. His bonuses are based off the free money that they have. And obviously studios have free money right now because they're not paying anybody. So it is truly selfish, and not even to the point of being like, well, I have to do what's in the stakeholders' best interest, who are also being greedy. But it is really just these studio heads are like, my bonuses.
That's 100%.
And being like, well, what can we do so that the workers don't have any control over the means of production? And in this case, when you're talking about actors and writers, it's their own bodies and their own words that you're trying to take away from them. So truly supervillain shit going on with the AMTP. I don't remember what it's called. It's the Struck Studios. Everyone knows who they are. And they're being really shitty.
100%, to say the least. Really
I
shitty.
saw someone being like, both sides are being terrible. It's embarrassing. And I was like,
no, it's not.
No, it's really embarrassing to have takes like that. That was that Dan Merle guy on YouTube. He's truly embarrassed himself many times, in my opinion. But I think that was the most embarrassing. But yeah, I don't listen to people who have takes like that. That it isn't embarrassing on both sides.
No, you know what that is? That's clickbait. They're feeding into the clickbait. So don't.
No, I think that's his general opinion. I think he thought he was being objective.
Objectively outrageous. It's still like, you're right. It's supervillain shit. You're like, how could this be fair? It's exploitation, and the argument is just gone when you're like, hey, guess what? They once got this, so it's a recent change. And this is it's important because all the people you love and care about, all the artists, they're getting exploited right now. It's not cool.
And it does affect other people,
absolutely,
to the extent that other people are like, oh, whatever, poor billionaires or millionaires being picked on by billionaires. Like, you do understand that applies to you at your work too. Like, if your boss suddenly decide, like, striking like this and bringing clarity to issues like this, where it's like, look what CEOs do, like, look what capitalists do when they think they can do whatever they want. It's not in the best interest of it. It's not like, oh, the best idea wins. It's not the free market will sort it out. It is they are willing to spite themselves and lose all this money just so that people don't get paid a fair wage or have control over how they do their job again.
Absolutely.
Saying things like, oh, we're just going to scan your body. Obviously that can't pass. And if you don't think that could apply to you when someone's like, hey, sorry, copywriter, we're just going to go with this AI program to do it. Or anybody, like it isn't a moot point just because they are in the entertainment business. It is
Right.
still a point that would affect anybody in any job. So
Absolutely.
it is important to pay attention to this and to understand that it's not embarrassing for both sides.
Mhm.
It's only embarrassing for the assholes who
Yes.
are being like, "Hey, I'm willing to wait this out so that they don't have control."
Yeah, they're just being more of an asshole because it's just that's it. They're blatantly being, and this is the thing too. Now, do you want to know one of the biggest things that everyone needs to be paying attention to? The video game industry is going to join this at some point.
Well, SAG is going to strike against the video game industry.
Right. What do you mean?
That is what's going to be joined. Is that SAG is now looking to strike against the video game industry.
Yeah. It's like it's going to impact, and my point there is like, however that goes, the video game industry is going to be impacted by this, in one way, shape, or form. And the reality is that the video game industry, in terms of revenue, in terms of profit, in terms of all that kind of stuff,
they're doing way better than
they
movies.
churn out more more money than movies, TV, streaming, all media combined. It is the powerhouse. It is the future. And so that's the thing. Is just like, okay, when people are like, oh, this small thing, I'm like, okay, this has big implications, bigger than you could ever even imagine, because it's just not cool. It's like it's exploitation at its very, very finest, and it'll happen to you. That Black Mirror episode.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that there's not going to be anything at the top of this episode, but we are still standing in solidarity with those unions because we understand how that affects everyone and not just those actors or writers.
Yeah.
It is important for people who make, or who you think make, more money than you to also understand, oh shit, we shouldn't be giving up the means of production to these people who don't do the actual work.
Mm-hmm. And here's another way to understand this in different kind of things too. There are well-known stories about like famous authors or like researchers that have had Amazon books published with AI software and all that kind of, like, pretending to be them, sold under their name, and they can't get it removed from these Amazon kind of book lists and all that kind of stuff. Why? Because it's generating profit and revenue, and it's destroying their academic reputation or their reputation as an artist or author or anything like that. So it's just like, okay, this is wide scale. It's huge, and it starts here because we care about entertainment. That's what, it's not boo-hoo. It is a big deal.
It is a big deal. Yeah. Also, a judge did rule that you can't copyright AI generated material, so that's good news. That is a step in the right direction. Because if their whole thing is being able to like profit off the stuff, there's going to be a lot more things that are able to be reiterated if you're going to just be using AI to generate the stuff. I think this is a good place to close it out. But yeah, we just wanted to make sure we touched on that. Well, it's come to this. We don't have a movie or TV show to talk about, so we're going to try and do something fun. I mean, I feel like it's going to be fun for us. Maybe it may not be fun for people to listen to, but I think it'll be fun.
I think it's fun. It's original content.
Yeah, we're going to do a comic book draft, a comic book movie specifically, no TV shows or comics, just comic book movie draft. I will list what the picks are. Obviously, it can go in any order, just round by round. Whoever's pick it is, they can pick whatever they want out of the thing, but we are going to be picking the best cast hero, the best cast villain, best cast supporting character, best score, best trilogy, best sequel, best 90s comic book movie, best 2000s comic book movie, best 2010s comic book movie, best animated comic book movie, and best comic book movie ever. I should have said 11 things. Sorry for the stuttering, but that's what we're going to do. And live on air, we are going to do a coin flip, so to speak. Ben is any even number that shows up from this random number generator. I'm any odd number that shows up.
That's right.
And we are going to generate it. You win, Ben. It's 10. I know you can't see this.
Boom.
It's 10. You win.
Boom.
You can pick first.
First pick of the draft, unlike
Yes.
fantasy football this year, which is why we got this amazing idea, the fantasy football stuff. Good luck to everyone this weekend, except for the team playing me. I wish you score less points than I do, but nothing bad for your players because that's not cool. All right, first overall draft pick. The category is best cast hero. This is so
You're gonna
good
do
for
that
me.
first? You don't have to do that first.
I don't.
Just
I can pick.
you can pick whatever you want. It's your.
Oh,
It's
then I'm
just
picking. I'm picking villain. Then I'm picking best
go for
cast
it.
villain.
Yeah.
Like 100% Heath Ledger Joker. Like, so good. Everything he brought to it. Everything he brought to the story that was being told, and how it was just. It was best cast villain. Love it.
Okay, so that means not only is Heath Ledger's Joker out of the running for anything, so is The Dark Knight. It is officially taken. That movie can't be said at any other point today, unless you're just comparing it to something else.
Yes, it can't be an official pick.
Yeah, The Dark
It
Knight,
could be a fun discussion point, but not an official pick.
first pick. Okay,
First pick of the draft. It's a good one.
what do I want to do here? Yeah, we're gonna stick with Batman villains, and I'm gonna go Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman in Batman Returns.
Mhm.
I don't know why I did that. I didn't have to pick that, but here we are. we did it. I'm already thrown off my game here, but yeah, that is who I'm picking. I think
That's what drafts are, baby.
much like the Joker and Heath Ledger, there was a bunch of things for people to compare the Michelle Pfeiffer to. Not the animated series yet, but there was like 3 Catwomen on that Adam West Batman show. So it's not like people weren't familiar or didn't have an opinion on what Catwoman should be, and I think she stood the test of time. People still say that's a great performance, and it certainly made me way more interested in the character. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that for my best cast villain. I wish I didn't do that, but here we are. On to you for round 2, Ben.
So that also means Batman Returns.
Batman Returns is now
off
the board.
the list. No, wait. So okay, so I picked that. Now, I mean, drop pick goes to you for the next category.
No. I just, like an idiot, chose to get to do that. I shouldn't have followed you. I should have picked what I wanted to pick. That was just round 1. Now it's round 2. It's back to you.
How could that be? No, it's because I pick best cast villain first as the category.
Yeah, but I didn't have to follow you. It's just round 1. That was just round 1.
Okay,
we are now in round 2. I'm the idiot that did what I did.
So I could just pick whatever I want now.
Yeah, you just pick whatever you want, and I'm going to remember not to follow suit with you.
Big mistake, baby.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm gonna go, and this is how I like to throw off drafts and all that kind of stuff. Best trilogy.
Mm-hmm. That's what I wanted to do first. So go ahead.
I think I'm gonna steal Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, thank goodness. No, that was never gonna be.
Yes,
never gonna be a thing for me.
Really? Okay.
So
But it's the best trilogy for me. It really is the best trilogy for me.
Go on.
I've never seen a movie be able to introduce me to so many different characters within such a short runtime. And I'm specifically talking about the first one. It made me care about each one so much, for everything to be so on point, for it to be so fun and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we did have a rocky second one, but the third one to me was just like, wow, what a powerhouse. And the way a trilogy ends to me is traditionally in, some good amount of despair, and in this there's not a good amount of despair, right? It's just the idea of like, no, we're moving on from just this codependency group or whatever this is. We're just going our separate ways, and to me, I'm like, what a great end to a trilogy from a storytelling standpoint, just because of that, right? It doesn't have to be conceptually anyone dying or sacrificing the world has been sacrificed many times in this, but in scale everything. That's my Guardians pick. It's great.
I mean, I agree with you that it's good. Guardians 3 is a strong finish, but Guardians 2 is, I'm always going to say, that is the strongest one. There's no doubt about it. That is That's the
Yep.
strongest one of the movies. That's what actually like it proves it wasn't a fluke, and it made you care about way more characters, so that three could
Absolutely.
land.
Mhm.
But yeah, best trilogy. I do want to just pick the best trilogy now. It sounds like I'm falling for the same trap, but it was the first thing I wanted to take off the board. Uh, so I'm going to do it now. Unfortunately for everyone, this is just going to be another MCU love fest. I'm picking
Oh.
Captain Marvel. Or sorry, not Captain Marvel, Captain America. The Captain America trilogy. I think it unlike the Guardians, it actually does get better
Mhm.
throughout. There's no stumbling in that one.
Mhm.
And for the story they were telling, it has the biggest impacts.
Yes.
For a solo. Guardians is great because, so this isn't me shitting on Guardians. Guardians is great because they got to do their own thing. So they weren't beholden to any real storytelling. They didn't even have to keep Thor from the Endgame ending. Like, they they don't have to. I think Thanos in the part one was the only thing, but again, he was dealing with Thanos' daughter, so why not have him have a presence there? And it didn't feel forced to me. It felt natural. So Guardians did well, but I think people debate about Guardians too, even though I think it's the best. Whereas for Captain America, I think people could not like Civil War, even though I do think it's great. Like, I think that
Yep.
part one is like, okay, so this is what set things up for Captain America. Part two is, wow, you just took Shield off the board, so that's a shift for everybody in the universe. Plus, it's an amazing sequel, and then Civil War, you're like, holy shit, they broke up the Avengers. In a comic line, I know people wanted it to be like, oh, this person dies, this person, but it's like, no, they killed the Avengers, and then that they're still dealing with the effects of that. Even in post Endgame, it's still like, yeah, like if they hadn't have broken up, this really wouldn't have gone the way it did. So I think that it was a solo thing that like still felt like it was engaging with the franchise that the greater franchise was part of. So yeah, Captain America's trilogy is my favorite comic book trilogy.
That's a great pick. All right.
Yeah, go for it.
Now,
We are now in round 3, obviously.
we are round three. Round three. I feel like I have to go with best cast hero now,
Okay.
which is Hugh Jackman Wolverine.
In because
Logan.
remember we said we have
Right,
to
right.
specify
Logan.
a movie.
Logan. By
You're
far.
taking Logan off the
Yep,
board. Okay.
taking Logan off the board. By far one of the, because to me when something is like it's a Western, I'm like, and I'm like, ooh, this is where they went with it. Okay, this is, and the ability to say bye to two characters. I mean, we've said bye to Ian McKellen, so it doesn't mean so much, but that performance that he gives, the significance of it, and his continued commitment to the preservation of that movie, and we'll figure out what that means in this. But he's suiting up, he's giving us what he wants, and you know, he's doing it one last time, and I do think he is the greatest best cast hero for that role. To see him go from where he's at and actually have such a diverse career and not kill his career, I think it's amazing. Hugh Jackman Wolverine in Logan, for sure, best cast hero.
I'm gonna go. This is where the stress comes in. What do I pick? So I don't. I'm gonna do it just so I can get this out. I'm gonna go best comic book movie ever. I'm going to go for it, and I'm gonna say Endgame.
Okay.
I think it stuck the landing, which is what I said the first time. It's one of those things where it emotionally makes sense, and if we're talking about comic book movies, not just like movies, because obviously I think there are better movies than Endgame, but I think if we're talking about comic book movies and the idea that, hey, you could see anyone can pop up, and it's about having people cross over and seeing things you wouldn't normally see. Endgame is definitely that for me, and it has the fun part of being like, okay, this was the capper. I know technically it's not, but it was the capper to that saga. Like Far From Home did a nice job of kind of being like, all right, here's a little palate cleanser, but like Endgame was like, okay, this is what we were waiting for.
Mm.
And I don't think many people can argue that like they whiffed on it. I think that everyone can agree like, oh, that was a satisfying thing. What people think about it nowadays and and the effect it's had on people, an audience's expectations is whatever to me. But I think when it came out, it was like, okay, they did it.
Yep. That's a great pick, and obviously one that I'm like, of course someone's gonna pick this one off the map. I had it in a different category. But I mean, best movie of all time, I think that's gonna be good. Um, it, Certainly I'm going to follow up with that category as well, but I think yeah, the criticisms against Endgame are very few and far between, and really it's like, oh, you're nitpicking right now, you're nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking to try to look objective. You could just love the movie, you could just love the movie, you know what I mean?
That's what I say, emotionally it works. I
Yeah.
understand how people can be like, logically this, and it's like, nah, whatever, man, like that, it just worked for me.
Who cares? And the people that are complaining about the rat thing, I'm like, well, you know what? Yeah, one thing out of all those kind of things, and maybe that rat kicks it all off. Maybe the rat doesn't walk across that in a billion different kind of scenarios. Who cares? It's beautiful. I'm a little envious, but I mean, I did get the first round draft pick. So, okay. So my next best comic book movie ever is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did what I did.
Drafts are so much fun. Into the Spider-Verse to me is amazing. It's got every single like little. No wait, into no. Oh, did I write into across? No, that's across. The most recent one, the follow up. I think is the best one ever. Yeah.
I will allow this.
Sorry, I made that switch. Across the Spider-Verse is
everyone gets one.
Yeah,
I used mine on Captain Marvel, even though it wasn't a trilogy, so it wouldn't have mattered. But
I would have been like, no, I would have been like, you cannot submit this.
Yeah.
No, Across the Spider-Verse to me is the most amazing comic book movie of all time. It does bridge that gap. It takes away some of the awkwardness of live action sometimes, and it just consistently hits throughout the and I'm sad I picked this because I pretty sure I know why you're like, okay, I know this is good news for me. But
no, it isn't. I was hoping you meant Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, okay. Across the Spider-Verse is like everything about it is so good. The depth of storytelling, the amazing scale of this is how our multiverse works and all this kind of stuff, and how we're going to characterize certain Spider-Men in different, like it's everything about it. It is fantastic, building off of something that's really, really, really solid to begin with, and this is just jumping into a whole new thing. And of course, it's the beginning of a 2-part series, which is, at time of this recording, that's what it is. Across the Spider-Verse, best comic book movie of all time for me.
Well, I can't say I'm not disappointed that you got that one, but it was obviously up there, and we're in round 4. So if I really wanted, I should have jumped on that.
Yeah.
What do I want to do here?
Now, hold on one second. Before you pick, and I hope this doesn't interrupt because there's no timer on this, right? There's no timer. So, I do want to have one question. If, let's say, for example, Guardians is already off the board, none of the Guardians movies within like a category, subcategory, like best decades of this could go into that, right? For example, or any of the casting characters.
All the Guardians off.
So, like any of the Guardians castings and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go with best supporting character. And I'm going to say Okoye. For nice. Wakanda Forever. I do think that obviously overall she's great, but as I forced you to pick which movie, I am gonna force myself and say Wakanda Forever. I think Wakanda Forever doesn't really work if you don't have that strong like supporting character that people actually care about. So when she loses her role, that people actually care about, that her appeal,
Mhm.
or I mean, and I do mean Wakanda Forever, but obviously we know that she showed up in Endgame and people were excited to see her. She had a great line in Infinity War. So outside of the first movie you saw her in, you were still happy to see her again, and so much so that when it was basically the second movie about, hey, what are we gonna do about Black Panther, I don't think many people would have been upset if it was Okoye who took on that role, even though we
Mhm.
knew from the first movie that wouldn't make sense for her. It was still like, hey, like, you know, everyone likes Okoye. She could do
Mhm.
it. She could do it. And then I think when where they landed with her in the movie was great. And as I think we both talked about her appeal to Queen Ramonda being a highlight of that movie.
Yeah. 100%. That's a great supporting character pick. Yeah. Because here's the thing. I think this is one of those things where she might be the launching point for where she goes next is going to be like, does she have that ability to transcend supporting into self-supported or something like that? You know what I mean? And that's what's very exciting with that character. That's good stuff. All right. I'm gonna go with my best supporting character.
Mm-hmm.
J.K. Simmons is J. Jonah Jameson,
That makes sense.
Spider-Man 1. He just iconic to that role. He is so good. He took what I imagined the animated series from the 90s to be into
Mm-hmm.
real life. And I'm like, this love it. Let's just keep going with this. This and the
So,
newest iteration too, where they're
so
going
which
with
movie
yeah,
specifically are you picking with that?
Spider-Man 1.
Okay.
Yeah. I got to be kind with that one. Um, but yeah, because that role to me is in person defined across every and even in the Lego Spider um man stuff.
Right.
There's references to his portrayal of it, and I'm like, yep, that's it's he perfected it in live screen. So J. Jonah Jameson, J.K. Simmons, Spider Man.
Yeah, I think that's one of those ones where even when they, as you said in the Lego, sorry, in Across the Spider Verse when they did the Lego version, and in the MCU when they needed to do it again, it was very clear that even Kevin Feige was like, you can't do better than J.K. Simmons. So much so that the Amazing Spider-Man trilogy didn't, or set of movies didn't even try to cast him.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a text message in the second movie because they were like, you can't beat it. So that I get it. I figured that would be one that I was okay with you taking, but it's it's the obvious pick, obviously. Like I don't think anyone would argue with that being a great casting.
Yeah, well, with what's left on the board, because I had another one, but obviously not talking about that. It's a draft.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want that to get.
Not talking about draft strategy.
Oh man. All right, I'm gonna go with best sequel because it looks like we're closing in on
The heavy
some
hitters.
territory
Yeah,
that
hundred
I
percent.
need to protect. Uh, I'm gonna say No Way Home, and to be clear, this wasn't my first choice, but it is a choice I had.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, much like Endgame, I think it was like, oh, we're truly embracing the comic bookiness of this. It like the Spider-Man having to deal with Doctor Strange and how they interact in this story. Um, obviously bringing in the other Spider-Man and their villains, but more importantly, it was a sequel that where you're like, I think we got it. I don't know that many people talk about it other than us and a few other people, but it's like, oh, that was basically the first act of Spider-Man in the MCU. Like
Mm-hmm.
they took 3 movies to tell their story, but in this sequel, it was like, oh shit, we finally got with great power comes great responsibility. We like he doesn't have Iron Man anymore. He doesn't have his tech anymore. Like he's finally the Spider-Man everyone wanted him to be. But
Mm-hmm.
we actually got to spend 3 movies with him and care about him, so that next time we see him, it's not just, oh yeah, we're doing Spider-Man again. It's like, oh
Mm-hmm.
well, we know what he's lost. We know he knows what he's lost. It's a bit deeper now, and I think that they set. I'm fine if they don't do another one, to be honest, because I thought that trilogy did a good job of being like, all right, you know
Yeah.
Spider-Man from here, you got it from here. But
Mm-hmm.
if they do, it's got that extra layer to it of like, this is really sad. Actually, this is
Mhm.
he had his fun, and he probably didn't even think it was fun while it was happening. But those days were way better. Those days are done, and now it's like it's gonna be way tougher for him.
Yep.
So I think that's why I would pick it. Again, not my first choice for best sequel, but some things were said that really threw a wrench in my plans. So
Yep.
I'm glad that I thought about this ahead of time and wasn't just winging it. But I don't feel shame with this pick. It's just I want to make it clear to people listening. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm dying to say this.
Yeah, no, I can fully see where you're coming from for best sequel for what's left on the board, so to speak. The idea of the entire trilogy of Spider-Man um being confirmed to be one whole origin story even amplifies it even greater, right? Because you have that huge rise with No Way Home. It's truly it makes me care about high school stuff. It
Mm-hmm.
makes me be like, oh, okay, that's how they're gonna do the interesting. Because when they originally like, oh, we're gonna do 1 year of high school, I'm like, how are they gonna do that over 7 years? And I'm like, oh, you bums found a way with a 5 year time lapse or whatever. That is great, great stuff. So, yep, that's a great pick. That is a strong, strong pick. Man, Spider-Man's off the table now. The MCU stuff. All right, this is
Yeah.
gonna be fun. Um, what best okay,
Yeah,
best
it's really coming down to it. You're like, I really got to be serious about my
hmm,
intentions here.
I'm gonna do because we still got best score to talk about. And I got to do this one right away because I don't have the ability to really go through any other score. To be clear, and this is important because I need to clarify this. This is score, not soundtrack.
That's correct.
Yeah. So with that being said, I got to do Into the Spider-Verse.
This is truly unfortunate for me. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, it is a great soundtrack. Or sorry, it's a great score.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because to me, I'm
and
like with that score, I am not comfortable going anywhere like a backup recommendation. I'm like, to me, it's like the tight end pick in fantasy football. It's just like, oh, you have your three top end, the tight ends are good, and then everything else is just trashed here. And to me, I'm like, okay, I have to make sure, even though I'm being a jerk in this, I gotta pull that out into the Spider Verse.
yeah, I mean, I truly messed up on my animated movies. So that is what it is. Uh, okay. Bottom of round 6. What am I gonna do? Um, you know what? Having said that, I'm still not going to. Still not gonna share my best uh, animated movie is.
Of course not.
I'm going to go with best 2000s movie.
Okay, okay, okay.
Uh, Again, if anyone knows me, they know this isn't actually my first pick, but Spider-Man 2. Uh, Obviously the Tobey Maguire, not Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Far From Home. Yeah, I for the time I thought like, wow, they nailed it. This is perfect. I think when we revisited it, we saw a bit more complexity, not necessarily in a good way, but like it's there. It's a bit more complicated than just this is the best, but it's still really good. Like if you grew up with it, it certainly holds up emotionally. Uh, so yeah, I'm gonna say Spider-Man 2. I'm sure people think it is in fact the best. Uh, just so that we're not in the dark here, I would have said The Dark Knight if it was still available, but
Yep.
Heath Ledger got taken off the board. But yeah, if we're talking about best 2000s comic book movie, I'm gonna go with Spider-Man 2 because
Gotcha.
it is left. It is good, but it's not necessarily my favorite.
All right. So let me see. What do we have left here? All right. So we have that. And we have, for me, best 2000s, V for Vendetta.
Oh yeah, those. Yep, go for
That
it.
that that movie to me was just such a good movie for the 2000s. Is right there. It was just it I really like a movie that ages well. And it's one of those things where in the 2000s there's a lot of movies and visuals that don't age well because they were trying too hard, or like it was there at the time and this is big, right?
Hmm.
um for V for Vendetta, everything about that movie, visual wise, upkeeps, and the storytelling and the acting and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, the over dramatic stuff from Natalie Portman. I'm like, it's a comic book movie. It just didn't come across that way for a lot of people, and they didn't connect with that. But I gotta go with V for Vendetta.
Well, there we go. Not a favorite movie of mine. I think they fumbled the actual concept, but it looks
Mhm.
good. It certainly looks good, and V as a main character or whatever, the hero of the movie.
Protagonist.
Obviously, Natalie Portman's character is the protagonist, but I
Mhm.
don't. I know. I
Oh
guess he is
yeah, well yeah,
support.
you're right.
V is supporting. He's not. He's got more screen time than the Joker, but he's like the Joker in that, like, he's
Yes.
there and he's like really pushing the excitement of the movie, and he
Mhm.
does a good job of that. But I do think that, yeah, the whole everyone's just okay with how things are, even though they know things aren't good, really missed the mark.
Mhm.
Because in order for that to work, you need to have a subclass that everyone's like, well, at least we're not them. So I think the commentary was fumbled in a detrimental way. But
Yep.
yes, it is a fun
That's me
movie to
approaching
talk
it.
about. Yeah.
Yes, that's me approaching it from a movie alone. That's my asterisk for that. Because I do know there's certain things here that I'm like, there's certain picks that I have that I'm like, oh, I have to asterisk this, right? And that's why it's a draft. NFL draft. You're like, do you have to explain your draft pick sometimes? No.
Well, I mean,
Some
for
of
a
the
podcast,
players
yes.
for podcasts, yes, but in
Yes.
draft,
No.
mm-mm. But yeah, it's from a storytelling movie. It compels me, it pulls me in, it engages me. It's a good movie for me. Best of the 2000s.
Okay. Oof, where I guess I gotta jump on this. I'm gonna do best 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just gonna be Black Panther for me. This was my
Nice.
first. This was my first pick. I didn't have any issues with other things being taken. I was just like, yeah, that would actually be my favorite of the
Mm-hmm.
2010s. Well, I guess, yeah. I had the Spider Verse stuff in a different place, but yeah, Black Panther. I don't feel it anyway. I feel like this was a solid choice. Black
Mm-hmm.
Panther, as we've talked about many times on this podcast, and I've talked about on other podcasts, it is very clear in its intent what it's talking about, and basically every scene follows through on exploring that idea of just because something works doesn't mean it can't be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it on a I don't want to even say superficial level, but on another level, it made people feel seen and represented.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big deal. But in terms of the mechanics of the movie, I still think it is a well-made movie in that way. People can laugh at the effects all they want. They've been very clear about why it looked the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but because they had Infinity War and Endgame to make.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that it's a well written, well executed, elevated comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the superhero stuff in it, obviously, but it is talking about something important, relevant, and yeah, people misunderstand Killmonger, which I actually find is a bonus that people can have such a wrong take on such a well written character that is complicated and not just
Mm-hmm.
right because he said things you like to hear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the ability to agree with someone is, you don't. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's. knew that was coming up, and I'm like, oh, I'd be a real jerk if I took that off the board for any particular reason, because I'm like, yeah, that's a jerk move for sure. But best 2010s for me,
And you
Infinity
want to
War.
do this, right? You're not just following
No,
the.
no, no.
Okay.
I want to, because this is the backup. I have no other backup for this.
Oh, okay.
It's Infinity War.
Oh, that's not taken already.
That's not taken already.
Okay.
That's why I got to do it right now.
All
I'm
right.
like, it's Infinity War. In terms of what it achieved, in terms of, the promise of where it was going to go, it was just that collective moment where you're like, oh my, what just happened at the end, where you're expecting those highs where you're like, yeah, Thor's joining the battle. Now everyone's screwed and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're really going with those motions. And then all of a sudden, everyone's snapped away. And there's nothing anyone can do. The villain won. And I really enjoy when in narrative stories when the villain ends, right? Obviously it's not a full story, it's not complete and all that kind of stuff, because the heroes want to keep going. But in terms of Thanos' story, that's a complete story for him. He achieved what he wanted.
Yeah, he
And
set out to
it
do
is,
something. He did it.
yeah, and he did it. And it's just through all the storytelling, through all the depth, through all the kind of stuff. It's his movie, and he won. Best 2010s for sure.
That was also a movie. Like you left Black Panther for me, I left Infinity War for you.
Appreciate that.
This guy obviously really likes this movie. I'm not gonna touch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think there was that shock value of like, holy shit, the good guys lost. And the way they lost, again, I understand that people are like, they're gonna come back. It was just like, yeah, but
Of course.
the characters don't. Like that's
Yeah.
I'm invested in the characters, and
Mhm.
I'm hoping that people who listen to this podcast, if this is your first time listening, I care about investing in the characters, especially in this age where we're like, we're going to be doing this every week, basically.
Yeah.
I need to care about the characters. It can't just be, wow, the fight scenes look great. So yeah, I care that Okoye is reaching out for her leader and he dusts, and she's like, what the fuck am I going to do? I care that Steve is left being like, holy like I really thought we were gonna do this and it did not work out. He lost Bucky, he lost Sam. So yeah, for a guy that was like out of time, and the people that he had from back in his time and the person that he had in his time that he actually spent time with, he didn't even have Tony there with him. They were on the outs, but he didn't even have Tony there with him. So he really is like by himself. Like I don't think that stuff can just be hand waved away by being like, nah, whatever, there's a second movie, they'll be back. I think you're just you have to surrender yourself to the reality of the movie.
Yeah, I 100%. It's one of the few movies to me I'm like, yeah, of course I know it's bookended. This is the few exceptions where I'm like, no, the curiosity about how they get there now on something that big has been the most fun that whole year, entertaining these theories, developing them, all that kind of stuff. It just set off such a great point of fascination and the idea of, holy crap, I feel like they might actually do this, and then just don't fumble. That's it. Just don't fumble. It was just best 2010s for me. Yeah. Thank you.
I haven't done best score yet, I guess. Should I? No, I'm not asking you. I'm talking out loud.
Oh yeah.
I'll go with best score now, and I'll say Michael Giacchino's The Batman from 2021. That is a great score. I will hear nothing to the opposite. I think it's great. It really carries that 3-hour movie. I was just like, all right, yeah, like let's keep playing that theme. Woo! And I still listen to it to this day. Into the Spider-Verse also is a score that I listen to this day. There was a lot of times I wanted to touch on Into the Spider-Verse, but the Batman was my first. As soon as I thought of this category, I thought of the Batman, and I felt safe knowing you weren't going to touch it for anything. So,
yeah.
So yeah. I will get that out of the way now.
Yeah, because to me, I'm like, as much as I love the score and I can appreciate it and all that kind of stuff, I'm always distracted because I'm forced to focus on one element. So I'm always like, okay, focus on the story. And then the score ends up being so passive to me that it doesn't have that impact. And to me, one of the biggest things is the reason why I had to take Into the Spider-Verse off the table is for that reason. Nothing made me feel that way except for that, right? And the Batman one, you're like, yeah, I absolutely feel that, but I can't remember it. So I'm glad that you got that. Because it is a good score now that I think about that. When I think about that movie, because I have it on in the background when I'm cleaning sometimes, and I'm like, this is good.
That is
it's
the
a good
perfect
score
time to appreciate the score.
Yeah, it's great. It's a good score. I'm like, okay, I don't have to watch every single detail, criticize everything, but the score is fantastic. You're absolutely right. That's a good one. All right. So I don't believe I've done my best animated movie yet, have I?
I mean, I hope. Oh yeah, because you just did best movie for Across, and
Yeah.
this
So
could
my
really blow up in my face. I should have. I thought you'd already done it. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay. Mine is Flashpoint.
Oh, thank goodness. Woo.
I love that movie, that animated movie. It is such a good movie. It is so the voice acting is good. Everything about it. It's the Flash when told through that storyline. It is it's an amazing movie, right? And then what I love about that is the different iterations and the complexity of how you explore Batman in this world, where it's like, instead of like the parents dying, Bruce dies, and this is what happens, and then all of a sudden you have this closed loop for Batman where you get something you never thought he'd get ever in any kind of capacity or any version of it, which is some sort of emotional closure from his parents. And it's just like, yeah, okay, it's not his parents, all that, but the idea of that Thomas Wayne Batman
Getting
being
close
like,
to knowing like what his dad would think of him.
exactly. The idea, just that is so, that's awesome to me. I love that movie. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you opened the floodgates to non-theatrical animated movies. Let me look at what's left, because
I think we both have best 90s on the table for sure.
I have 90s on the table. I still have best hero.
Oh, you do? I'm excited to hear about that.
90s hero and animated for me. So,
and what do I got?
I don't know. I haven't been paying attention.
Damn it.
I'm going to go with I guess I should end. Oh yeah, you know what? I'll go with my best 90s right now, because you still have that too, right?
I still have best 90s.
Okay,
yep.
So I should get that out of the way. I'm gonna just say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
Right on the just right under the wire there of the 90s, right on the dot. Yeah, I think as a kid, I probably would have been like, oh, Ninja Turtles too, but obviously as an adult now, you could be like, wow, they took this seriously enough, like as seriously as they could. To this day, I'm still haunted by like, is Raphael gonna die? Is Splinter gonna die? And I think if you're going to use the whole Raphael tries to blow up the team by going rogue, why not do it on the first one? Get it out of the way. Like, it's the first time I saw it. I guess it just bothers me every time I see it again. But this is the first time I saw it. It can feel like the original. It's effective, obviously, because like I think when he wakes up and he goes, "It's okay, Leo," or something like that, you're like, "Oh, they do love each other." It's got layers to it. It's again, it is technically for kids, so I think the worst you hear is "damn," but it's got a lot of great quotable moments, and they actually use their weapons in this one. I rewatched the second one with my son a lot, and I'm like, they really just don't use their weapons in this movie. It's so weird to even have them around. So yeah, I will go with 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Awesome. That is great. And one thing I might add to that, my appreciation for that movie is increased when you see the actual animatronics and the puppeteering and all that kind of stuff, and the complexity that goes into that and how good it looks. And It holds up. It's a great movie for that reason. It's there's depth to it. It is great. Um, it is absolutely great. Um, man, I think what I got left is best 2000s. Oh no, wait, no, I did that already. Okay, best sequel.
You've done hero, villain, supporting character,
Yep.
score, trilogy. Have you done your
I
best
think
sequel?
no, I haven't done sequel yet.
You
No,
haven't done 90s sequel, and you
90s
did.
and sequel. That's what I
Those are
need
the
to
two you have
do.
left.
I don't have much left on the board. I hate that I'm gonna say this. X2. I
It's for
for what's
obviously for sequel. That could go
for
anywhere
sequel.
else. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely for sequel.
obviously.
Absolutely for sequel. In terms of what that movie did at that point in time, it holds up. The idea of um it really took a step up from where X-Men was. And we were already like, this is awesome. X-Men is awesome, all in. And where X2 went and where what it promised, quintessential phrasing, what it promised was so, oh my god, this is gonna be awesome, we're gonna get Phoenix. And then of course that's why I'm like, best sequel is X2, because you care about all the characters still. You have a lot of fun with a couple of new mutants, some you care about more than others, some whatever, but that to me is the best sequel for what's left on the table.
I think it's just one of the best sequels. I don't even think
Yeah.
you have to qualify it. Like, there's no everything you said is true. Like, people already liked X-Men, and then X2 came out, and
Mm-hmm.
you're like, "Fuck X-Men, this is amazing!" Like, they truly stepped it up.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it felt more engaged with the comic book stuff of being like, no, like now they have to team up with their enemies because there's a new
Mm-hmm.
enemy. It had all of that, and yeah, it has this Dark Phoenix tease at the end. It works on its own,
Mm-hmm.
but you also leave it being like, holy shit, what's next? Like, and not in a what are they gonna do? You're just like, okay, so like they're gonna do Dark Phoenix next, cool. I
Mm-hmm.
think it is a great sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously didn't pick it, but it was on my list of things to pick, and I wouldn't have felt any shame picking it. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
genuinely, especially in a time where people weren't taking these as seriously, it shows like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like they really commit to this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You get some amazing fight choreography. You get some amazing visuals that are just like, it is what it is, and you get that horrifying. Oh, that's how X-23 dies, or Lady Deathstriker. It's such a good sequel. It's great, but of course that's where the X-Men franchise ends for me. My appreciation of it, at least.
I like it. I like that in First Class. I think
Yeah.
those are two very strong
Mm-hmm.
movies. And Days of Future Past, I guess, is
Mm-hmm.
close. I don't love it as much as other people, but it is strong.
Yeah, it is a strong movie for sure.
But yeah, I think X2 is great. I just
Mhm.
realized I might have an issue. Well, we'll see if you'll accept it. I will.
Yeah.
I'll see
Yeah.
if you accept it.
Mhm.
I'm not there yet, but I will. I know you'll accept this because of your best animated movie. But my
Mhm.
best animated movie, because you took Across the Spider Verse, is Under the Red Hood. I think that
Oh
it
yeah.
has the best like deconstruction of what is wrong with Batman. Not, oh, you don't spend money in the right places, because I think if you believe that, you don't understand how Gotham works. But like,
Yes. Yeah, that's right. I'm like, you're funding the machine that's corrupt that he's fighting
yes,
against.
yeah, the answer to capitalism isn't more capitalism.
That's right.
But when Red Hood talks about, so Red Hood being spoiler alert, Jason Todd, being like,
Mm.
how many times could you have stopped Joker and he wouldn't have killed me? Let alone the fact that I wouldn't have
Mhm.
left Joker alive if he killed you.
Mhm.
So to come back from the dead and be like, oh, this guy's still going around doing his thing even
Mhm.
after he killed me. What the fuck's wrong with you? And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's a great movie regardless,
Mhm.
but really getting to the heart of like, why are you so committed to this no killing thing when it could save lives?
Mhm. Mhm. Why
And
aren't you seeing it differently? Yeah.
I don't say that to be like, so yeah, just kill everybody and like a thing will be fine. I say
Right.
that to say like it made things more complicated, which is something I enjoy. It means that you're taking it more than just the surface level of it. It's comic books. You get it. Boom, bang, pow. There was something they wanted to get at and something they wanted to interrogate, and it's done in such a great way.
Yeah, I agree. That's such a great movie, and not something, it's so underappreciated by myself. But it's great. Like you're right, it challenges that idea of the mythos of absolutes. Like this is the issue of absolutes. Like you could have done the world a great favor. At this point, what he's basically asking is so important and so interesting, of the idea of like, wait, are you not killing these villains because you need them? And then, you know what I mean? To give your life meaning, to fight crime and at the level that you need to. You're not taking down like, mobsters anymore, like low level stuff. Do you need this to fulfill your ego? Is this about you? And it's such a wildly interesting concept, because never before has that been like, wait, we're questioning the motives of our hero at its foundational core, like the core principle of it. Wow, that's awesome. Because even with Man of Steel, when Superman kills Zod, people are like, oh, it goes against the core principle. I'm like, it doesn't have that, which is what made that movie a lot more interesting to me. I'm like, yeah, but the fact that he's like, no, I don't kill. They can do this. They can do this. I'm like, do you actually believe in their rehabilitation, or are you trying to save society, or are you trying to float your own boat? It's such a great core question. Love it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Under the Red
Hood.
Some great stuff.
All
right.
I think my last category here is, I think this was, I'm so glad leaving this to the end, because I knew it was going to be a nice safe pick for me. Best 90s comic book film, The Crow.
Got it. Yes.
That is my best 90s superhero film, because to me it's just you see what a limited budget it had and all that kind of stuff. To me, I love that story. I love it so much. It fit the era of the 90s for what I appreciated, the grunge era, all that kind of stuff, and it really did something, I think, really, really cool, with something that was, I think, material that was not going to be at that level, to be like, let's make this into a movie at that point in time, and they got that success, right? It's just, when someone reads that source material, you're like, yikes, you want to turn this into a movie? And the fact that they did, and not to mention, like, it's truly tragic that Brandon Lee passed away during the making of that, and how that went. And obviously that franchise is cursed now, but the original Crow, best 90s comic book film for me.
Yeah, we covered that on this. That's the first time I saw it, and it is right up your alley. That makes sense.
Absolutely. It's definitely right up my alley. It's a cliche pick for myself.
I don't know if it's cliche. I'm sure there's other people that would agree with you. I'm glad we both went with mostly independent. Like, it's what would they be if they weren't independent in the 90s? Like, but like, they aren't, like, neither of us picked a Blade movie, which I think makes sense, because those weren't really marketed as comic book movies. Not that, I guess Crow wasn't either, but like, yeah, I think that's why I would have stayed away from Crow too. But I like the movies. I think that they are movies that have a clear vision. I'm talking about Blade and Crow at this point. Like, they have a clear vision, they execute. But yeah, to me, like, I went Ninja Turtles because it just felt more closer to like embracing comic books, the genre a little bit more, like, as opposed to being like, this is an action movie, don't worry about it. And I think part of that is because what are you gonna do if you're saying we're doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Like, people will be like, right, okay, so this isn't just an action movie. Whereas you can get away with it with Blade and The Crow, even, like, people like, so yeah, I think that doesn't take anything away from them, but it's just my point of view, and I think that it makes sense for you to have The Crow at the 90s.
It and to me, I always think about this too. It's just like, rewatching movies now, how dated does it look? And when you watch The Crow, you're like, for what they're telling you and the story that's involved, he doesn't need magic powers. He just needs to continue to not die. That's it. And he's fueled by revenge. Awesome. Believe what you will, but like, no, and no cliched, oh, this is the blood of a super soldier, this is the genetic thing. It's just, it's, for better or worse, it's tied to some cultural beliefs, and they took that and made a story that's really, when you look at the source material and where it comes from, that story, it's really, really tragic. It's, it is what it is. And yeah, like you said, it's right up my alley. The Crow.
So here's the issue.
Mhm.
I feel like this still counts, but I will defer to you. If you don't think this counts,
Right.
You can say no.
Yep.
But I think the best cast hero is Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel. I don't mean the Disney Plus show because we're doing movies, not shows. But since The Marvels is filmed, the marketing has started for it. We've seen the trailers. Do you still count it? Because she is a known quantity. She is in the movie. People are excited. Well, from what I've read online, people are excited about it for her because of the whole everyone wants to hate Brie Larson of it all. And who's gonna say they're excited to see the black woman? So I think my reasoning for her is she really was not like, she wasn't even an actor. I don't think she just was like, I like the character.
Yeah.
She came out, and if we're just basing it on the trailers, I know we can't base this off of the TV show. She still pops in that trailer. She feels like a star. So it's not like the other MCU castings where, like, sure, maybe you hadn't seen them before, but they were acting before this. No one came into the MCU fresh, other than, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I feel like Iman Vellani is, if there's more, she's like one or two.
Fresh in terms of casting?
In terms of not being an actor and then like being
like a no name and then leading something. Yeah.
Like everyone else had credits before,
they had background
before they came an MCU character.
Of
note. Like I don't like, if someone tells me like, hey, the person that kisses so and so in this movie never acted before, and I mean like a named person that had like
to lead a series.
And like
this ain't like, I mean, you're right in the sense where you're like, if you're talking about like best cast, a person that doesn't have any credentials and qualifications for anything, I'm like, yeah, Will Smith in Fresh Prince fits that role pretty well. I mean, like, but you know what? I'm going to 100% allow it. Here's the reason why. Movie's already made. Yeah. It's obviously still being edited. It's being marketed. It's being whatever. Movie's made. It counts. It's not like it's like, oh, this is a Phase 6 movie that's like, oh, they'll be on screen. I'm like, no, hold on. We'll see about that.
It's not like I'm like, I think I obviously did it based on the Disney Plus series, but I still think it counts based on everything I said based around the movie, which is Vellani's presence in that trailer and the fact that she is a co-lead in that movie is what people are excited about. And when you watch like people reacting to the trailer, when you read people being snarky online, the positive thing they say is she's probably going to be the best part of the movie.
So knowing that it's your pick, I want to hear your reasons why before I go into like, this is why I agree, and that's something I never thought about, probably because of the technicality aspect, but please, I want to hear your thing. Go for it.
Well, no, I said it already.
Oh, yeah, okay. Fair enough. Right. Okay. Sorry. ADD things. Here's something I want to add to that. I think this is someone that, when I was playing the Marvel's Avengers game on PlayStation 5, when that was still a thing, it was, the story narrative was led by Kamala Khan, and the entire time I'm like, this is just, it's not right. And when I saw Iman Vellani, I'm like, this is right. This clicks. This is everything I want. This is someone, and again, just stating my bias out there, it's hard for me to care about kids' stories and all that kind of stuff. This is a kid's story that I deeply care about, because it's talking about a lot of those kind of like things that I personally struggled with growing up, that no one really gets to have on this scale, let's say, not the big screen, technically speaking, but on the scale. And the idea of, no, this is a good establishment of this character to put there. But also, here's the thing too that I love about Iman Vellani, is that she cares so much about this character that she's dedicated and writing storylines and helping to develop actual storylines in the comic aspect. She's not just, oh, I
Oh,
want
it's
to be an
out.
actress.
The comic is out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
she did the rebirth of Miss Marvel.
Yeah, and and for her to do that, I'm like, that, yeah, that's such good casting. Because we're obviously it's just cast. It's cast. So I mean, like, yeah, I'll allow it, and it's great casting, 100%. To see someone care about it that much. That's the same reason why I chose Hugh Jackman, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that he will like, no, you can't touch the ending of Logan. We have to keep that and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, if someone cares that much, I'm into it for sure.
it is funny how he got the role, but he was just hung over and was like, "Are we fucking doing it or not? Like, what do you want from me?"
Yeah.
Because they had to scramble because it was supposed to be that Dougray
Mhm.
Scott guy that's the villain in Mission Impossible 2. But
Yeah.
Mission Impossible 2, I mean, I guess that's the first comic book movie they fucked with because they had to keep filming so he couldn't commit to being Wolverine.
Yeah.
And I think Russell Crowe was, they were like, Russell Crowe, and then he was the one that was like, I don't know, my friend Hugh could do it. And
Yeah.
Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman was just like he was a
Broadway
theater
guy.
guy. He was a
Yeah.
theater guy, and he was hungover. He came in and like obviously didn't care about the movie. He was just like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I'm gonna say my lines. If you want me, you want me. If you don't, and they were like, oh wow, like this is Wolverine. Like, look at how like rude he is. And then he came back and he was being like nice because he was like, oh thanks.
Mhm.
And they were like, It was kind of like that Homer thing when he got the voice of Poochie. When he was like too nice when they gave him the job, and then like
Mhm.
they're like, no, do what you did before. He's like, I don't remember. But yeah, I like Hugh Jackman is a great example because
Yeah.
I think people are having a hard time considering what Wolverine, who to cast as Wolverine if it's not him.
100%.
To the point of
100%.
like he's coming back for Deadpool and he's gonna be in Secret Wars,
Yeah.
and who knows what happens with him in the like thing. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, but I think um, Ms. Marvel was like a character that, and at this point I will use the show as an example, but like
Yeah.
outside of the video games, yeah, like people didn't really have another point of reference for Ms. Marvel.
Hmm.
So for her to come out and just be so synonymous with the role, and
Hmm.
obviously it's new, right? Like you only had the what did they do, 8, 9 episodes of Ms. Marvel, but like you only had that,
Yeah.
and she's done a bunch of other stuff for like promotional stuff as Ms.
Hmm.
Marvel, but like as you said, she nailed it. Like as so
Hmm.
you had your opinion on what she should be, and you thought she did a good job, and
Yeah.
um as I said, the fact that she's a big reason people are looking forward to the Marvels.
Yeah. 100%.
It shows that like she did nail it. Whereas like there's other people. I think I was gonna say if you didn't allow it, I was gonna just say Christopher Reeve because they are still chasing that.
The
Like
glory
in
days
terms
of
of
that. Yeah.
like they're trying to chase that still. Like even with
Mhm.
that corn sweat guy, like it's like yeah, because he kind of looks like Christopher Reeve. Like
Yeah.
like I don't think they've done a live action Superman movie that where they weren't casting someone who kind of looked like Christopher Reeve.
Hmm.
Um, so that obviously means they did a good job the first time they casted him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Christopher Reeve, who
Yeah.
probably wanted to do other stuff, but like it
Uh,
was just like, oh,
yeah.
that's Superman.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
Superman.
I mean, and that's the thing. This is one of the hardest picks to have and be confident about. So I'm glad you're confident about your pick, and I'm glad I'm confident about mine because
Yeah,
for the same, we have very very similar reasons. Like they're both very very unknown at the time and all that kind of stuff, and just come in, did their own thing, and were just themselves. The fact that he was himself and is, oh, that's Wolverine. I'm like, oh, that's good casting. That's, yep, maybe a little bit of a referral nepotism situation, whatever you got, but it's good casting. I liked it. And Monfalani, strong choice. Yeah, well, I am very excited about the Marvels, by the way. That is very much for that reason. For
so
Amon.
I'll just read this out again
Hmm.
for everyone, and then there'll be a list that comes out with the episodes so people can see.
Hmm.
But for your best villain, you picked Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight.
Hmm.
I picked Michelle Pfeiffer from Batman Returns. Your best trilogy was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Hmm.
Mine was the Captain America one. Your best hero casting was Hugh Jackman for Wolverine, specifically in Logan.
Mhm.
I picked Endgame as the best comic book movie ever. You picked Across the Spider-Verse as the best comic book movie ever. I picked Denai Guerrera as Okoye as best supporting, specifically in Wakanda Forever. You picked J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man 1. I picked No Way Home as the best comic book sequel. You picked Into the Spider-Verse as the best score. I picked Spider-Man 2 as the best 2000s comic book movie. You picked V for Vendetta for the best 2000s comic book movie. I picked Black Panther for the best 2010s. You picked Infinity War for 2010s. I picked The Batman for the score. You picked Flashpoint for animated. I picked Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the 90s. You picked X2 for best sequel. I picked Under the Red Hood for best animated. You picked The Crow for best 90s, and I picked Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel in The Marvels for best cast hero.
That is a strong, spoiled, rotten casting.
Yeah,
I mean, drafting.
Yeah, well, as I said, the list will be out there. So yeah, that's right. That's that. We are part of the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Bad Gay Movies, Contra Zoom Pod, Springfield, Googleplex, and more. So please go to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows, our show, and more shows. We are on tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten if you want to hear older episodes. We're on all the podcast platforms, so please rate, review, subscribe, follow, share with your friends, do all that great stuff. And you can follow us on Twitter, Threads, and Instagram at TDFSpoiled. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com, so please get in touch with us. And we'll be back next week. Goodbye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.